The unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Today I'm going to talk about stress. When you look at our world, you think stress. Huge amount of stress in our world at the moment. The COVID pandemic has been extremely stressful, not so much now, but at the beginning it was just awful for everybody. And now people are thinking, meh, I'm tired of it. People are getting sick, but they're getting a little bit less worried about it all, whether rightly or not, we don't know. Climate change. Stress for everybody. Poor old planet groaning, stressed out, animals stressed, people stressed, everything kind of stressed. And you can, people worry about that. People worry about, here we are, some of us are getting old, thinking, well, I'll be dead soon, But people with young children think, well, what am I bringing my kids into? It's really, really hard. Anyway. It's a lot of stress. The heat causes stress. People get hot and cross and crabby and much more, stressed out than they are. When it's cold, you don't see people fighting and getting upset so much. You're just cold, hide in your little house and you're cold. But when it's hot, you go out and look for trouble. Politics, war, the economy, all these things, very stressful. And some of it's always been with us, and some of it seems like it's a little bit more than usual. And we can't avoid it all. You can stop looking at the news, but you've still got heat waves and, wildfires not far away and floods in places. You can't avoid it. And we're connected to everybody. You can't say, well, that's all very well, I'm not going to, I don't care. You have to care. We all have to care about our world, the beings in it, with all the things that are going on. We're all affected by all these global events, but we try not to drown. That's the thing. Then there's all the stress in our own lives, our own worries and concerns about ourselves, about the people we love, about our future, I was thinking about stress because a small thing that happened a couple of days ago. I was stuck in the teeth and claws of some government department, and I couldn't move forward or back. And it was somewhat stressful. I was a little irritated by the whole thing, feeling somewhat helpless, treated unfairly, I'm sure this is familiar to many of us, some kind of government whatnot that you're stuck in and you can't seem to move. So I was thinking of stress, because I looked at my reaction to this, and I was a little bit more stressed than I would have expected. I thought, why is that? It's just a little thing. I think it's the feeling of being helpless, treated unfairly. No phone call, no phone number, you can't call anybody, But you could write, you can do something. But I just felt a little bit stressed. And I had a choice. I could be upset, or I could accept it. This is just a small thing. Do what I can to remedy it. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Just accept it. Get a grip. Because things like this happen all the time, and far worse, of course, to many, many people. We have certain expectations. Things don't turn out the way we'd like them to. People don't do what we hope they will do. Things aren't as we wish. People don't see our completely reasonable point of view. They don't care. We feel dismissed. But then there's people who are, trying to come into a fleeing war or disaster in their own country, trying to come somewhere else and getting no help. People separated from their children, they can't find them. Awful things happen to people. And as we know, a little thing like myself is nothing compared with things that happen to people. Terrible suffering. How much people endure. What incredible resilience people have to get through the things of their lives. It's actually amazing. Well, we worry about these little things, and then something big happens in our life, and all this little stuff just evaporates. We worry about some little house problem, then the house gets washed away. It puts it in perspective. At least I have a house. We get sick, we might die. People we love get sick, they might die. As we can lose our house to fire or flood. All these things can happen, extremely stressful. And yet people manage to live through them. And even if we do get sick and we die, well, we're going to die sometime. It's not like it's never going to happen. Can we do the best we can with it? Yes, we can. Do our very best with whatever comes our way. We can do that. It's how we do, how we approach things, how we accept things that makes all the difference. If we're kicking and screaming and fighting against change, we're going to be stressed, no matter what. And if we accept what comes our way, it's much better. Sometimes these things make us stronger. Often they do, We're more able to endure the ups and downs of our lives when we've been through a bit. We can be more compassionate, sympathetic to other people going through difficulty. We have more understanding and wisdom what it's like, We see what's important, and we let go of our little concerns. So stress isn't always a bad thing. It can actually be helpful. Change is stressful. Even when it's change for the better. Uncertainty is very stressful, Moving house, what's it going to be like? Apparently, moving house causes more divorces than all kinds of other things. You wouldn't think so, but it's really stressful. A new relationship, a new job, they can all be very stressful. Partly because of the uncertainty, how's it going to be? And just having to adapt to new conditions, stressful for people, Training as an athlete, or a musician, or a dancer, or an artist, it can be extremely stressful to do. People go through an enormous amount of seeming hardship. You think, why would anybody do that? But actually, people do it because they want to do it. Maybe it's stressful, but maybe it's not a suffering. How do we know? It may look like suffering when somebody is running a very long way in very hot weather, but maybe that's what they love. How do we know? Most of our stress we cause for ourselves. This is the mind, as we know. Our expectations of other people, how things will be. We expect a nice, lovely holiday when everybody gets sick or it rains all the time, There we go. If we're expecting something else, we suffer. If we can just accept things the way they are, okay, this is how it is, then it's a whole lot better. It may be disappointing, but it won't be the suffering we have if we're expecting perfection and it's not anything like that. The holidays from hell. The expectation is what sets us up for suffering, stress, because things aren't ever the way we dream they will be. Our expectations of ourselves is a huge stressor, Trying to be perfect, very, very stressful. Trying to live up to other people's expectations, or our own expectations of ourselves. Trying never to make a mistake, good luck, Trying to do everything right and not drop the ball or make some mess of things. We always make messes of things now and then. Because we're never going to be good enough. It's bottomless. The bottomless pit of trying to be good enough for ourselves or for somebody else. Endless. We're never going to manage it. We just need to let go of that trying to be perfect, trying to be the ideal person, trying never to make a mistake, never to get upset, never to say the wrong thing, never to do the wrong thing. You bind yourself hand and foot trying to be perfect, to do our best, certainly, but not keep comparing ourselves to some ideal or comparing ourselves with other people, or comparing things with the way we think they should be. The internet, it seems there's a huge amount of pressure and stress with the internet. for some of us, just trying to keep up with it all is a stressful thing. Just trying to figure out what's this new program and why have they changed all the terms, But for people with the social internet thing, of which I'm almost oblivious, but people getting shamed on the internet, people trying to look beautiful because the internet tells them they have to look like this, and of course they can't. Just terrible stress. Young people killing themselves because they're not perfect. It's wretched, Could they not just put the darn thing down and do something else? But it doesn't seem to be quite that simple. Am I liked by enough people? You may not even know me, It all sounds like a lot of suffering. Trying to be in control of things, to have things the way we want them. We're not in control. Trying to manage everything is very stressful because we just can't do it. We can't manage everything. We can't control everything. We can't control our own life, our own health. We can do our best. We get sick. We get old. We die. A pity we didn't, but it doesn't always work out the way we'd like, We might think that being in control will give us some peace of mind, but it's just the opposite. We just run ourselves ragged trying to make everything the way we want it, and that doesn't work at all. Sometimes we might be under chronic stress from some situation, an overtaxing job where we can't get along with the people we work with, or they expect more of us than we can possibly do, or we're not getting along with our co-workers, or taking care of a bedbound relative. That's extremely hard. Living with somebody we find very, very difficult to get along with. Children with ongoing problems, and we worry about them constantly. All these things are extremely stressful, and our body and mind pay for that because it's such an ongoing tension. And we may not even know how much stress we have built up in our body until we try to relax, and we think, why can't I relax? Because I'm bound in hand and foot by all this stress. And people have to, we have to learn to let go. Chronic anxiety and worry, Past trauma can cause great stress, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Much more common than we know, actually. And it doesn't help to say, oh, just get over it, It's past, it's past and gone now, it's not happening now. It's not that simple. But if we can let go of our judgment, that should be different, or absorbing other people's judgment of us, saying you shouldn't be like this, Whether people actually are judging us, or whether we just think they're judging us, we can just let go of all that and accept the way we are and do our best with it. It helps helps greatly. If we need treatment, take it, do it. It's not a failure, let it help. Well, how do we deal with all this stress? Meditation, as we know, is a wonderful help. Daily practice, every day. We might still find ourselves getting stressed, but we learn to sit still and not get completely pushed over by it. Just sitting there in this very moment, not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future, just to keep coming back to this moment right now is the best thing, Because usually right now, it's okay. Here we are sitting in this room, comparatively comfortable. We're not starving to death, and the roof isn't falling in. We have nothing to worry about in this moment. Nothing to worry about. Here we are, together, just sitting in this room. It's not even super hot. It's fine. Whether we're sitting in meditation, or sitting here together like this, or just going about our life, at work, or whatever it is, when we find ourselves getting worried or stewing on something, just come back to this moment. Even when we're not stewing on something, just keep coming back to this moment. What am I doing right now? I'm cleaning my teeth. Okay, just do that. Just do that. Doing our best to let go of all our worries and concerns is the very best help we can give ourselves. Mindfulness, as much as we can, in all the things that we do. With this huge mindfulness movement was really helpful, because so many people live under huge suffering because of things that have happened in the past, things that might happen in the future. Just to be able to sit still in this very moment, whatever we may be doing, is an enormous help to everybody. And not getting all upset because we don't do it perfectly. We just keep coming back. Oh, what am I doing? Just come back, just come back. Offering merit. If we're worried about the world, worried about other people, worried about our planet, worried about everything, just offer merit. We can't fix everything. We can do what we can, maybe help a bit. But it's not all up to us. But we can offer merit and sit in faith that things will fundamentally work out somehow. Seeing our own concerns in some kind of perspective. Here's this global thing going on, or huge wars in places, and here I am worried about this little thing, Looking at our mind, that's what it really is. Looking at our mind. What am I worried about, actually? Why am I worried, and what could happen? What's the worst that could happen? What am I clinging on to that I need to let go of? Some ideal, or some wish, or some resentment, or some worry, or some, thing I wish I'd done. Well, I haven't done it, it's gone. Holding on to regret about the past, no use in that. Just live with what we have now. Who knows how that would have turned out, Things that we can't change. Just to accept them as best we can and sit still with them. There are so many ways that we create stress in our own mind, as we know. If we're doing too much, can we simplify a bit? Simplify what we do a bit less. Abandon that great project we thought to do, or do it another time maybe. Just let it go maybe, We don't have to do everything. Taking time to relax and do something we enjoy is immeasurably helpful. Just cutting that cycle of doing and anxiety, just doing something we like. I think if we all have something that we enjoy and find relaxing, do it more than you do now maybe. It's really helpful. Reverend Master Jiyu, I came in this morning thinking, I'm going to talk about stress. Here I see this beautiful smiling face on the altar. I thought, let's talk about stress? Why, But then I thought, well, actually, Reverend Master Jiyu had a huge amount of stress in her life. She had a very stressful family background. It was awful. She was a musician and was constantly discriminated against because she was a woman. They wouldn't give her jobs because she was a woman. She'd get a job as a church organist, then she'd get tossed out after 10 years because they had some man who could do the job, Very, very stressful, hard to take that kind of thing. She goes to Japan, lives in a male temple, and as those of us who read The Wild White Goose can attest to, it was terribly hard, really, really stressful. She didn't know the culture, She didn't know the language very well at all. It was just really hard. And when she was able to turn it around and see things differently, the whole thing changed, as we know. To accept everything that happened to her as being for her good. This doesn't mean that things happened just so she could learn from them. It was, this has happened, how can I use it to the good? How can I derive benefit from this? How can I help this situation? How can I not just be upset, And that really made all the difference. And after that, she was okay. It was still hard. She still had problems. She still had difficulties dealing with the culture and being in this temple, but it was different, completely different. It was like night and day. She didn't suffer in the same way because she knew something a lot deeper than all the surface stuff that had been going on. She knew the great matter. She knew Buddha nature. She called it the eternal, the unborn, something that does not go away, that you do not lose. And she always had deep faith in that, and it never left her. When I came to Shasta Abbey, 15 years after this, experience of hers, actually. It was in 62, I came in 77. 15 years later, I come to Shasta Abbey. And Reverend Master Jiyu had recently been through his life-threatening illness and his deep religious experience, which he wrote about in The Wild White Goose. How to Grow a Lotus Blossom. That was her second great thing. She was getting better. She'd been really ill, almost died, and she'd had this major experience. I spent quite a bit of time with her over the years, and I saw her go through many extremely stressful situations. And sometimes she'd be quite worried or sad about things that had happened. Sometimes monks would leave, people she'd loved actually and helped, People thought, after her experience, some people thought she was going off the rails. This isn't what you taught us, we expect something a bit more straightforward. And suddenly she's opened up the whole thing and think, whoa, past lives, whoa. And some people got frightened and ran away. And it was really hard for her. She thought, have I made some horrible mistake here? Have I really damaged people? That was a great concern. Have I damaged people? Have I harmed them? But then she thought, no, I had to do it. She wrote How to Grow a Lotus Blossom for the sake of other people who might have something similar happen to them and know that actually they were not crazy, they were perfectly fine, they were having some deep experience and never to doubt it. And she never backed down, she never doubted that experience, she never said, I shouldn't have written that book, She had that deep faith that saw through everything, all these things. All sorts of other things happened over the years, And I'd see her sitting still in the midst of worry, grief, Sometimes she had to make a really, really difficult decision. And she might go over and over it later, Did I do the best I could have done? But she didn't get pushed off. She didn't wish she had done something else. She said, no, I had to do it. I had to do it that way, whatever it might be. Well, nowadays, I sometimes wish I could talk to Reverend Master and get some advice. What would you do in this situation, Reverend Master? What would you do about this, Quite often, actually, it was just so nice just to sit down and have a cup of tea with her and ask, But what I've learned was that eventually, as she would say, if you sit still long enough, the earth will stop shaking. In Japan they had earthquakes and they were scary. And she thought, if you just sit still long enough, eventually the earth stops shaking. I think she was in some meeting or other, and there was an earthquake. Nobody got up and ran about, and she sat still. And that's what she always did. Excuse me. She'd always sit still in the midst of all the conditions of her life. Whatever happened, whatever went wrong, whatever didn't go wrong, she would sit still in the midst of it all, in faith, in deep faith, that fundamentally things were okay. Even when she made mistakes, and she did, she wasn't perfect, she made a number of mistakes. She would be sorry, but she wouldn't give up, and she wouldn't doubt. She would not doubt her own experience, and that she always had that certainty of Buddha nature. So now, here we are, when we're under stress. What's really important? What is the most important thing? My little worry about the government, or this little thing that I'm irritated about, or this little disagreement I had with somebody, is that the important thing to concern myself with? Or is there something more important? Well, of course there is. Kindness, to treat beings with kindness, is far more important than being right, or controlling things, or being justified, or being thought well of, looking perfect, even when we're upset and we're not perfect, to trust that kindness that is within all of us, and to come back to that. Kindness to ourselves when we've made a mistake, not just to berate ourselves because they're not perfect. Kindness to ourselves, kindness to other beings. How we live our life. Taking time with people, not being so busy. We don't have time to be kind, to take time with people, to listen to people. Always to come back to that. Sitting still in faith in the midst of whatever is going on in our life, trusting the great matter for which we train, that which embraces all of us, that Reverend Master Jiyu sat still in through all the conditions of life. And look what we have now. This is the result of that. If she'd given up or doubted or gone away, we wouldn't have this. But she never did. She just sat through it all, saw it through to the very end of her life. And to remember that, when we're worried about something, about our earth, about our country, about our own home, about our lives, about us, ourselves, or about everything, just to come back to that faith that if you sit still long enough, sanity prevails, the earth stops shaking, and at the very least we can be kind to ourselves, kind to other beings, and take refuge in that great matter to which we train. So that's Reverend Master Jiyu's teaching for us today. Thank you. It's nice to see you all. Wasn't it nice to do the stupa ceremony today? It was lovely. Thank you. Take care.